I'm an undergraduate aerospace engineer and an Air Force ROTC cadet. In my first year, I made a lot of mistakes, so I'm making this video to compile all of them into one 15-minute, 10-minute, I don't know, long video. And if somebody does see this, maybe they can benefit from this, but most likely it's just gonna be me talking to myself. The first point that I'm gonna try to make is that academics are the bare minimum. Because in my senior year, I did a lot of things that was focused on academics in high school. And I didn't get into the college that I wanted to because, I only had academics to show for it. I only had a GPA, I only had a good SAT score. And unfortunately, top colleges are looking for a little bit more than that. So when I went into freshman year of college, I was telling myself that I would not make those types of mistakes. And, it started off really well because I went to I joined the flying club, I joined the Air Force ROTC, and I signed up for a bunch of events, not events, but a bunch of activities so that I could start bolstering my resume with stuff more than just, I had a really high score in this class. But then when my GPA dropped during that quarter, I realized that, I just threw away all of that, which I joined. I threw away all of the activities that I signed up for, and then I started focusing only on academics. And so unfortunately, that resulted in me losing out on a lot of opportunities. But seeing my GPA go up also did make me feel good. So that mistake continued on until the end of the school year, where I signed up for 4 STEM classes. And I did end up on the dean's list with those 4 STEM classes, which shocked me. But after all is said and done, I realized that I fell into the same mistake again. I just fell flat. There was nothing, no jobs wanted me because, good job, you can read a textbook. But there's really no substance to courses. So just try to do a bit more than just signing up for all the hard courses. Do a bit more than just focusing on your academics. That's not the point of college. I mean, the point of college is to learn, but jobs want you to learn more than just what a textbook can tell you. So keep that in mind. Okay, the second point that I'm gonna try to make is that leadership means compassion. And I learned this lesson in ROTC, but it doesn't matter if you're in ROTC or not, because chances are you're gonna be leading people in the future, and the skills or the lessons that I learned in ROTC are applicable to everyone. You probably heard the saying, don't throw stones in a glass house. Well, I'd say don't throw stones at all. And I say this because in ROTC, I was really good at doing a lot of things such as tactical decision making and stuff like that. Of course, I made mistakes, but for the most part, I was pretty good at it. And when I see other people doing something another way, I would give them advice, and that advice was interpreted usually as pretty rude or overbearing, or that's what the feedback said to me when I ranked bottom third of the entire class. And basically 70% of the comments that I got from my peers all stated that that I dismiss a bunch of other people's ideas. I dismiss things, I say things, I want things done in a certain way. So that told me that, I needed to be better at communicating what I wanted without stepping on other people's toes. And you know, everyone has to maintain a standard, especially in ROTC, but there's a right way to do it, and then there's shouting at others, which is the extreme, but like there's like nagging at others until it's done correctly. And unfortunately, I seem to be doing the nagging part because, you know, I was raised that way. You know, if you don't do something, you get reminded of it over and over and over, and then if you get reminded enough, eventually the voice starts like, or you get shouted at, you know. So being a leader means that you don't do that. You try to understand where things are going wrong, because chances are most people want to do the right thing when they're given the chance. But you know, if you're reminding them all the time, if you're nagging them all the time, if you're saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, they don't want to do it because you're being an asshole. So show that you're on their side. Remind them once or twice, but like no more. And then if they're not doing things, or like if they're trying to screw you over, you know, you don't have to confront them, because you have tools to make sure that, you know, they do what they need to do. You can contact, you know, their higher ups. In ROTC, that would be like the squad commander. But like in the workplace, you know, you can contact your boss, try to get him to understand you, and just, you know, start bringing down the book instead of, you know, trying to solve things by yourself, because things are a team effort for the most part. Everything that's done in the world requires a team. So use the team, use your resources. Don't try to fix everything yourself, especially when it comes to people, because people hate being told what's right and what's wrong, because they have their own ways of doing things. The third lesson that I want to talk about is the value of showing your worth to your boss. Because in a group setting, if you just do the work, like most of the time, other people can and will claim the credit for your work. Of course, that requires you to think that you deserve to stand up for yourself, and you know, that's a whole different topic, which I can talk about in another video. One of the assignments that I had to do during the school year for ROTC was to write an essay on what I've done for the past year. Now, because I sat on my ass for like half of the year, and I talked about that with like all my classes, you know, I didn't have a lot to talk about, but like I still did a lot of stuff in ROTC that I could have talked about. But when I went to go write everything down onto the essay and make it look pretty, you know, I turn it in and I get a score that was below my expectations because I thought it was a really good essay. The feedback essentially said the grammar is refined, the spelling is refined, everything is refined about the English part of it. But then the actual content part of it says that you basically did nothing for the school year. Like you suck at bragging, basically. So that taught me that, you know, I needed to learn how to bring myself up and talk about myself in a way that like convinces others that I'm a good resource for them. But beyond the assignment where I had to brag about myself, essentially, there were so many other opportunities that I could have, you know, show how I was being productive with my time to the cadre, which is basically like my bosses in the ROTC program, right? I could have walked into their offices, I could have talked about what I was doing to improve my metrics, what I wanted to do to improve my metrics, and ask for like, what should I do? And all of these like things that could have built a relationship between me and my superior, my officer, right? I could have spent the time and effort, but I didn't because I usually let the performance metrics like the physical fitness assessment and like the open ranks inspections where you just spout off warrior knowledge, which shows you're being academically disciplined. Like I always just let the physical and the academics and like the stuff that like you can see on a piece of paper, the statistics. I always let the statistics speak for myself, and I shouldn't have done that because the things that make you a human isn't the statistics. That make you like a good fit in the office isn't like your performance metrics being super high. It's like building a relationship with all of your colleagues, your superiors. It's showing that you want to be there and all that, this and all that. Like it's being a person that has a face. And I was just being like a robot that could do things and show improvement over time. But like, that's not what an officer does. That's what a good soldier who follows orders does. And, you know, that's not what they want. So, you know, I needed to show that I wanted to be there. I needed to show that personal aspect to my superiors, and I didn't do that. So just to recap the points that I went over, the first point was basically how academics were the bare minimum. You know, go out, explore, find opportunities, find resources that show that, you know, you're more than just somebody that can read the textbook. The second point that I talked about was how it's important to develop the people skills to work out problems in the workplace. And then the third lesson that I talked about, the third point that I talked about was how it's important to show your work. Because, you know, if you don't, you get a 0 on the test. So those are the 3 lessons that I wanted to talk about. If you learned something from this video, consider leaving a like and a subscribe. Also, comment below about like your stories, because I'll be reading them, and you know, if you guys want a little advice, I'll also be happy to help out. So yeah, with that being said, bye bye.